A to the K.
to the K.
To the K.
Hello, one and all. Welcome to the ATK Wrestling Show. Where joining us today is Emmy-nominated producer, founder, and CEO of GoodGold Agency, representing WWE Hall of Famers and the hottest AEW talent, the one and only Meech Golden. Meech, thanks so much for being here, man. How are you?
Oh, man, I'm great, man. I appreciate you fellas for having me on today.
No, thank you very much for coming on. So if we could, I suppose we could start at the beginning by asking, sort of how you first got into the sort of production and talent management role.
Yeah, I'm, ironically, I was very, very blessed, man. My journey has been kind of crazy. I moved to New York from DC in 2010 with dreams of actually getting into artist management. And kind of scratched and clawed my way around, working a few odd different jobs. I worked under this guy, Arnaldo Gordon, at Violator and Def Jam. Worked at, I interned with the Purple Agency as a PR assistant. And then around 2016, I got lucky. I shouldn't say I got lucky, right? Because I earned it. But it was definitely a chance encounter. I was getting ready to go work out with a friend, and he's like, "Send me your resume." Send him my resume. And within minutes of me sending my resume, I get a call from this guy, Jose Diaz, who was working for Michael Strahan's company, Smack Entertainment. And about within maybe a week and a half's time, I was hired. And I started off there as an assistant, which was definitely a wake-up call, right? In a lot of ways, I knew that it was time for me to, if I wanted to take the next step in my career, I might need to take a step back to take a couple steps forward. And that's exactly what Smack ultimately ended up being for me, man. It really taught me and helped me hone in on my skills as a talent manager, really showed me what it took to be a good talent manager, leverage, negotiation, the interpersonal stuff. There was my experience there was just invaluable, man. I can't thank them enough. I think within a month's time, I was representing, I was day-to-day for Deion Sanders. And at various different times, I was, Michael's assistant. I had the Bella Twins, Amari Hart with the actor. I worked across projects for Wiz Khalifa, projects for Snoop. It was just a tremendous opportunity. And I'm super grateful for my experience there.
Wow, definitely thrown in the deep end, with that. And you mentioned kind of on the GoodGold Agency website that kind of it was birthed out of pressure. So I'm just kind of fascinated, like what kind of led to you to kind of start your own agency, and what do you mean when you say it was kind of birthed out of pressure?
Yeah, so I was having probably the time of my life at Smack, right? Everything was going great. And I remember, in August of 2021, just kind of feeling like, there's some things out there that I really, really want to chase that I just need to do for myself. Like I need to do this myself. And it's not that I didn't want the help of that Smack could offer. I just wanted to do it my way, right? And I decided to put my 30 days notice in, without a job, without a plan really in play, other than I'm going to do this thing that I've always wanted to do. And that was the pressure, right? It was the jumping off the porch without a parachute, knowing that I was built for maybe a turbulent landing, but I would definitely end up on my feet and be able to hold my own. And that's I'm very fortunate. It hasn't been an easy road, but I have been able to have a lot of really dope people lend their support and help along the way, and I'm grateful for that.
That's awesome. So obviously talking of pressure, being a talent agent, you're responsible for growing careers and creating opportunities for the talent you represent. I just wondered if we could sort of go into a little bit on sort of how you handle that, for like when it comes to sort of bookings and sort of, I suppose, how you go about pitching them at the right level and dealing with those opportunities for them, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting, right? Because I was uniquely positioned in that the first client that I had under GoodGold was Bryan Danielson, right? And he had just signed with AEW a week prior, like, oh, he just debuted a week prior to me and him officially, making our arrangement official.
Yeah.
And I'd never worked with a professional wrestler before outside of like an active one, right? I worked with
Mhm.
the Bella Twins previously, like right before I, resigned from Smack. I was with, I was day to day on the Bella Twins or I should say the Garcia Twins now, right? Shout out to those ladies, being two of my favorite people in the world. Absolutely, I would do anything for those girls, man. But yeah, so having a legend in the industry like Bryan, bookings are not difficult to come by, right? If anything, I'm having to tell more people no on the inbound than anything because he's just signed with AEW and Tony's got, a ton of plans for him on the creative side, right? So it was kind of really understanding how to like navigate that, like the opportunities that make sense for Bryan as an AEW superstar, right? But then leveraging those up against opportunities that like, hey, Bryan, like when your AEW contract is up, you're still Bryan Danielson, right? And so like there's certain things that we need to do, establish and build so that when this is gone, this being his brand still exists and is alive, kicking and thriving. So really figuring out how to do that for wrestlers was probably the most challenging thing. But what I saw was that a lot of the same principles that I saw that we employed with like former athletes, turned broadcasters, and things of that nature over at Smack easily applied to this arena. Like, right, a lot of those same principles were easily applicable in this particular situation. So that's what's really honestly helped me. I think I go into a negotiation for wrestling talent differently than probably some of the other wrestling managers do, right? Because of my background and experience isn't solely wrestling. It's not solely autograph signings. Like I could give two shits about your autograph signing, bro. Like, like you can keep that. There's so much bigger opportunities out there. Like one brand partnership takes care of all of the signings you could possibly do, right? So those were the things that I was trying to, get the some of the wrestling talent to get to adapt to, right? But it all centers around their goals. Like I don't make any moves that is not aligned with exactly what that person and I have discussed. That hey, these are my goals. I'll develop a strategy based upon that set of goals. That way, you can never tell me no. I don't want to do this. Like no, you do want to do this. This was the goal that you set for yourself. So if this is changing, that's cool. It can change, and we can update the strategy accordingly. But this is what you said you wanted to do. So I'm only pushing you in that direction or asking you to wake up at this time or do this interview or, whatever that thing is, because you asked me to do that for you. So yeah, hopefully I answered that question. Sorry, a little roundabout way of getting there, but
no, it's fascinating because obviously as well as Bryan, you work with Renee Paquette and Saraya and Ruby Soho. You've kind of developed somewhat of like a niche now in that kind of wrestling space. Did you ever imagine that you'd kind of find that niche as well? Obviously, you represent a lot of other kind of verticals and athletes and actors and so on and so forth. But did you ever plan on kind of carving out somewhat of a niche in that industry?
No, I'd be lying if I
No.
told you I did. I didn't. I honestly I didn't. It's funny because I feel like in a lot of ways I am somewhat of the modern day wrestling fan, and I'll explain what I mean by that, right? Like most of us probably watch wrestling at some point during the Attitude Era, like right, like you at some point it was on your TV, you were a fan, you were locked in. That was me, like right. I was religiously back and forth on the channels on Monday nights, when Fridays or Thursdays, kicked in. I was there too, and then obviously there was Saturdays here and there. But I say all that to say, like at some point, high school-ish, maybe like, as I went to college, you kind of fall off. But you still love it enough that you can like check in every once in a while to see who's the guy, like, right? So I caught Cena's run, you know what I mean? I caught Orton's run, you know what I'm saying? Like I saw Kofi, like, I got to, there was different moments in time where it's like, okay, I'm still like adjacent, I'm here. And then obviously to get the Bella Twins, it was like, okay, I gotta like kind of do my homework because like I know who they are, but like I don't know some of their matches and like, you know what I mean? So I wanted to know like what makes these girls really, really special in the square circles, right? And so, catching back up and kind of seeing that to be where I'm at now with these guys. I think that there's like a certain level of like authenticity that they know that like I'm not here to be a fanboy, right? I'm genuinely here because I believe in them and their talent, right? Like I had to do homework to understand who you are and what your brand represents, right? Especially to a wrestling fan, right? And then how do you take what that brand is and then share that with the consumer, right? To build your own community, right? And that's been like probably like the most rewarding part is that like I got like arguably one of the greatest technical wrestlers of all time. Like I mean, his run is like up there with like the best ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Paige, Saraya, like, come on, like, dude, one of the most popular superstars ever. Her story was made into a film, a major motion picture. Renee, one of the greatest, the first ever female color commentator for wrestling. Like, it's so I'm so lucky, man. I'm fortunate, man. I'm so grateful to get to do what I do with these people. And I just hope that sorry, I just lost my train of thought because I literally just went off on a tangent because I'm so excited. I genuinely every day do wake up and I'm like, yo, like these are the people that I get to work with. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's an honor. It's an honor, man.
Yeah,
definitely.
So obviously we've established you obviously you have been and are a fan of wrestling. Do you find with sort of representing so many different wrestling talents, do you think that's increased the sort of the amount that you sort of consume wrestling? Yeah, and do you think it's made you more of a fan of wrestling?
Yeah. So the funny thing about it was I was never like not a fan, right? I just wasn't. I just wasn't tapped in as much as I was at one point, and now I'm definitely locked back in. I know that there's like this thing in wrestling with tribalism, which I don't subscribe to. You know what I mean?
Nah, we're the same.
Yeah, I subscribe to people and I subscribe to checks. So, I'm just gonna put that out there for whoever needs to hear it. This interview, I said what I said. But I think there's two very distinct products out there right now that make it very, very easy for people to pick at. It's like Samsung and an iPhone, right?
Exactly.
You almost need that other one to compare to, right? Because let's call it what it was. There was just complete dominance on one side for years. So just the smell of something new, I think, is really, really exciting for people. But then, wrestling fans are wrestling fans, right? So it becomes a little cool and, but again, I happen to love both products. And I think that obviously you just saw what they signed for. It's incredible. What that's going to do to the casual fan or do for the casual fan, it's going to be tenfold for them. You really don't know what you're missing until you're in it, right? And that's why they care so much about the live experience, right? Like WWE is all about that live experience, which it's like the Super Bowl every Monday night. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? Between the fireworks, the music, these larger than life characters, like every Monday you get that now on Netflix. It's gonna be insane. But then I also love, right, the indie brought to mainstream feel that AEW has, where it's like you watching these bangers like FTR. I can't even name a match that they've been in where they haven't just absolutely like just crushed it. Like I wish how like in boxing or UFC, like the knockout of the night gets like an extra check. I wish they had like banger of the night like that in wrestling. Like that would be so dope because like I mean those guys are paid. They might retire now because every time they get up, they're showing out. You know what I mean? And of course my guy, he gets busy. He does his thing. you guys want to know what's crazy? The very first match I got to see of Bryan's was Kofi Mania, right? My OCEO at Smack, she had got me tickets, which I didn't even know, to WrestleMania at MetLife, on the floor. On the floor, dude. So it was crazy. Fast forward to when I first started working with him, the first match I saw was him, AEW Grand Slam, Arthur Ashe, Kenny Omega.
That's crazy.
Iron Man, like hour long. What? Crazy. Like, oh, it was insane. It was insane. So yeah, man, I've been I'm definitely all the way back locked in as a fan. I mean, you even down to like the indies, right? There's groups out in the UK like Progress that I really enjoy. I really love those guys. I love DeFi. Shout out to the Bollywood boys first and foremost. Like those guys get busy, okay? And I'm not just saying that because they're my guys. Like they get busy. I don't know why they're not signed right now, but trust me, I'm going to be bringing them to a TV near you someday soon because they just deserve it, man. And there's a ton of other up and coming guys, whether on the indie circuit or that I'm seeing in NXT or in AEW that I'm like, yo, you're the reason why I'm a fan again. Like I can't wait to see where your career goes. Ricky Starks, man, what the absolute? Oh my god, Daniel Garcia. Daniel Garcia, like, are you kidding? Oh, so good, man, so good. Oh, I can talk about this for days now, guys.
Honestly, it's a great time to be a wrestling fan. There's just like we say it quite regularly. There's just such a stacked roster on both sides. Well, both sides, even the indies as well. But there's so much talent out there right now.
I love your analogy about Apple and Samsung as well because it's so true, isn't it? It's just like they're constantly evolving technology and the new feature here, new feature there. It's the same with wrestling. So we agree. We don't subscribe to the tribalism side, but I wanted to just kind of touch on Bryan as well. Obviously, he cut a promo not too long ago, kind of saying that he's made a promise to his daughter that he wants to kind of wind it up soon and that kind of thing. So obviously, I imagine this is a big news for you really to kind of set him up for kind of what's next and stuff when he does start to wind down that career. How's that kind of conversation been with Bryan as he kind of starts to wind it down?
Well, if you know anything about Bryan, Bryan beats only to the beat of his own drum, right? I've obviously brought him a multitude of opportunities, like around like what this could look like. Some of which we are currently activating on and take into account. But I think right now the biggest thing for me, the biggest thing that I've recognized is that he just wants to enjoy this, right? And I know that there's a certain level of like monetization that could be done around such a historic time for him. But at what expense, right? If those memories for him are tainted by having to just have finished a 60-minute match and then have to go sit for an hour and a half to talk to this camera about why he did this and how he felt this or recalling, it just would be a little inauthentic to who he is and what he represents. And I've learned that and I've grown to appreciate that. And I think that it also challenges you to think outside the box in ways to like encapsulate what this time, right, that we're going to want to talk about, that we're going to want to relive at some point and rehash what that looks like. So I think from a wrestling perspective, Tony has great plans for him. He's done really good by Bryan. I think Bryan's done really great by AEW, by the fans. He gives it his all. I mean, I can just list off and rattle off the injuries. They just don't seem to end. They just they don't seem to end. But also too, I mean, he does have a family, right, to raise and that he wants to be around for. And unfortunately, like as much as we love this sport, it does put some wear and tear on your body.
Oh yeah.
And I think we've seen he's done a really good job of he's very strict with his diet and his training regimens and things of that nature. And that's something that I also like give extreme support to for not just my talent, but for all these guys. Like the ones that are in it and about it, you can tell. They go hard with their routines, man, to keep their bodies conditioned to be able to put out the way that they do. I mean, and they're putting out a lot more on the other side than over in AEW. You know what I mean? It's incredible. It's not something to be taken lightly. So, I think as it winds down, I just would encourage everybody to just enjoy it. Like, we may never see something like this again. And, you generally don't really miss somebody until they're gone. But we don't have to think about him being gone right now because he's still here. So just embrace that, right? That would be my biggest advice,
Yeah, hopefully we get to see him at All In because obviously missed it last time. So of course, hopefully we see him this year.
I mean, speaking of All In, speaking of things like that, obviously one of the what I think is one of the main differences for talent you represent and wrestling talent specifically would be the likes of conventions and that, and obviously like as Carl mentioned, coming over to this country and perhaps then doing different shows and conventions in other areas. I mean, is that sort of quite a unique challenge for wrestling talent that you face, and sort of navigating which are the places to go for the best exposure, that sort of thing?
Very great question, right? So like here's like my take on it. There's some guys within like the memorabilia space that do a really, really good job, right? For them, it is a little bit more strategic than it is a money making tool. Some of them see it as a marketing opportunity, right? Like, which I think is what you guys are speaking to. In particular, that's sort of the way in which I've tried to navigate doing my signings with my talent. Like, if there is a Comic-Con, right, of some sort, right, in San Diego, right? That's one of the biggest on the planet. It makes sense for me to have talent, have a presence there, figuring out what other opportunities may exist in that room, right? Like outside of sitting at this table for the next 3 hours public, 1 hour private, and greeting all of these people that are coming in. It's like, what other opportunities can I be creating for this talent, to come back here in a different capacity, right? Or maybe it's just a speaking engagement where I'm making equal the amount of money that I am sitting here having to do these autographs, which I don't particularly love to do. Most of these guys don't have, I'm just being honest. Like, and I'm not saying this,
of course,
my guys, but most of them don't love to do that, man. They don't want to sit there. It's like you're an animal at the zoo. Like people just coming up, poking you, like, oh, can I take a picture with you? Like, you don't want to do that. Like it doesn't feel good. That's not the way in which talent want to interact with their fans. And so even with somebody like Saraya, what we've done is we've altered her signings to speaking engagements, right? Where you get a more intimate type of experience with her. So you'll get a dinner or lunch. On top of that, it'll be a moderated Q&A conversation between most likely Renee hosting with Saraya, doing the Q&A. You get that amazing conversation between them. Fans, then you have a very small, intimate crowd, so they get to ask as many questions as they want, right? And then that kind of trails over into like the meal, whatever cases, whether it's dinner or lunch. And that's over the course of 2 hours. Same monetary experience for Saraya, same monetary experience for the talent, but I mean, sorry, for the fans or for the community, and got to have a more intimate experience with one of their favorite superstars. So that's kind of the approach that I've taken when it comes to the memorabilia stuff. It's just like thinking outside the box. It's just sitting down at that table it's no fun for nobody. Like you're going to Alabama. What is Alabama doing for you?
To be fair, I think what you're saying is like it makes absolute perfect sense. It's a better experience for both the talent and the fans in that sort of setting because surely they're a lot more comfortable. I take your point before about it's almost like being at the zoo when it's like just people coming up for their autograph.
Yeah.
So that sounds
Yeah,
amazing.
even
Sounds
from
like
like a fan perspective, it's like onto the next one, onto the next one. We're having it that more intimate, kind of smaller crowd. Obviously, seems a lot more beneficial for both parties.
I mean, and think about that for me as a fan, as somebody who I didn't grow up with a ton of money, like at all, you know. So like the opportunity to get to go to a signing or something like that is few and far between. And that person is now in line to meet Bryan, and I have to rush them along because I have to make sure that the next person gets in. That where I'm from, we call it, that's nasty work. Like, right? It's just not,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? It's just not cool, man. You know, you don't do that. And you know, it's always a challenge in those situations. I mean, there's literally times where like I see a kid and his dad come up or whatever the case is, and the kid's like, "Oh man, oh, that's Bryan. Oh, hi Bryan." They're waving from afar. He's like, "Oh, you know, I know he wants to come up and ask for a picture, but he can't because they can't afford it." You know, and I'll see those guys around. One over, got you, because I know what that's going to do for that kid. I know what that just did for that father and for that kid and that father's relationship. I've seen all three of those things and how they all work hand in hand together, and to be in a position to be able to offer that. And Bryan, he just looks at me as like, "That was good. Like, you know, great job. Thank you for doing that." Like, you know what I'm saying? Because I appreciate it too. And he's so gracious with his time and with his people. And same with Saraya. Like, I mean, the amount of time like we get stopped at an airport or at a 7-Eleven and she just grocery store. Like it's insane, man. Like they're just so humble when it comes to creating these opportunities, these experiences for people, right? And so I think that's my biggest focus when it comes to like the memorabilia space is just like, how do we like make this an experience and not feel like a transaction?
Yeah, that's so awesome of you though, man, as well. Like to view it that way. I think like a lot of people might be kind of like onto the next, more money, more money. But like as you say, to for you to notice those things and to to make someone's day like that dad and that kid's day is just amazing. So big props to you for being that way, I suppose. Obviously, so like Renee, she's obviously got her cookbook and like the Sessions podcast, and we've seen Saraya showing up on the likes of Hot Ones and things like that. I'm just curious what kind of goes into growing the personal brand of a professional wrestler or someone in that wrestling space, because as she kind of said, like it's not necessarily always that mainstream. That might change a little bit from when it goes on Netflix and stuff with the WWE side of things. But like, how do you kind of grow that personal brand of someone in a wrestling space?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing right now is this like it's awareness. And I feel really, really privileged to be in a space that the last, I'll say 2.5 years, I've been screaming at every brand on the freaking planet, like, hey, you have this person here who, for the last 20 years, has stood up in front of a crowd and made millions of people scream the word yes. You have this woman over here who has literally captivated the world with her story, right? To the point where they decided to make it into a movie. And the fact that you're not using them for your commercial or for your to promote your brand is out of this world to me. It is the proof that I get now is to point to, if you don't think that wrestling is if you still think that wrestling is niche, look at what WWE not only just sold for, but look at the deal that they just did. Tell me how niche that truly is, right? Wrestling and their fans touch every single industry, every single person across in some shape or fashion across the entire planet. Like there's a wrestling fan somewhere in your vicinity, I promise you. And we're all a little bit weird, right? Because you got to be a little bit weird to believe that this guy's a dinosaur, and right, like you gotta be just a little bit weird to like actually like believe that. But we do, and we embrace that suspension of reality, and that's what I'm asking brands to do now is like, hey, suspend reality for 1 second, right? Allow this wrestler, the same way they have captivated these millions last 20 years, allow them to do that to your audience base. Let them take them on an experience and on a journey through whatever that product or whatever that service that you offer is. And they haven't been listening, dude. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like I've had a number of great opportunities, and then shout out to some of the partners that we've worked with. But there's been a lot that haven't been paying attention, and I think they're going to start paying attention now. And I'm going to start calling them again. It's the top of the year, like, hey, I've been trying to tell you, you know. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to checking back in with you guys about how some of those calls went.
Yeah, can't wait to hear
Awesome.
that.
I suppose in a similar vein to Carl's question, when we talk about branding, obviously you mentioned earlier about working with the Bellas, who's obviously their brand outside of wrestling is probably just as, if not bigger, in a lot of respects, than their wrestling brand. I just wondered if we could talk a little bit about what it was like working with those two, and sort of them moving from that sort of wrestling brand over like into to what they do now.
Yeah, you know, it was super interesting because they already had this baked in audience, like, right? Like the Bella Army is strong. Like it is insane. Like, right? Those ladies can say jump, and that group is like how high? It's like the Beehive or like the Swifties, or it's literally like that. And you know, being able to watch how Constance decided to like harness that, and the moves that she put into place that we were actually executing on to help the girls like take it to the next level, right? Because there is like a point where like I don't want to say you hit a wall as a talent, but it's like I've done everything that I could do here, and there's another level that I can achieve, right? And in order to do that, I need to get into some different rooms and I need to approach some conversations a little bit differently. And Constance was the perfect person for the Bellas to like open up those doors and to really help them expand on those opportunities, right? And I got not only did I get like a firsthand a view and seat of watching it happen, I got to be a part of that, and a lot of it anyway, before leaving. And obviously, like, if you're smart, you learn from those things, and you know you put little pieces in your pocket. Oh, that's the ace in the hole. Okay, I remember that. You know, when that time comes to swing back around, and it's you know, even them going through a name change, right? Like I can just imagine what the conversation like. I wasn't there any longer around that, but like just imagining the pressure behind that. You know, wanting it to be successful, right? Wanting it to hit. It probably couldn't win any better for them. Like, you know, from my vantage point anyway, you know. And that's when you know you have something real and something authentic. Like the Bella Army just became the Garcia Army. Just like that. Yeah. They, you know what I mean? The fans, they immediately, this is what we're doing now. Cool. Say less. You know, and you can't beat that. It's priceless. Like they actually built community amongst these people. And like I said, shout out to the Smack team because they've done a great job in just like harnessing that and using that to help the Garcias expand and get into all these different ventures that of course they're in now.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'm curious as well, obviously working with so many AEW talent, do you get to be backstage often? If so, but kind of how's that experience like being backstage with all the talent?
I do. I've gotten to go back there. And I don't know what I expected, but it's not exactly what not exactly what I expected. It's actually a lot more like organized than like, you know, I don't want to like share too much like trade secrets, but like, you know, yeah, you know what I mean? I think my favorite thing to watch is like, you know, just getting that glimpse of like Tony and Gorilla, and you can see how passionate he is about this product. And nothing excites me more because y'all, as y'all can see, like I'm passionate about everything I do. Like I'm drinking this water, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like so to see that right in another person is super exciting. Like I know when he's there, he's locked in. He's the LeBron James of this thing that he's doing in that moment, and to see how meticulous he is about that process. I think it's really special, and I'm honored to have gotten to get a glimpse of that. Likewise, you know, being able to just like I don't bother Bryan on show day. Like If I'm there, if I see him, I'm give him a head nod. What's up, boss man? Keep it pushing. Because he's just so like Terminator, laser, like locked in. Like it's almost as if he barely sees me. Like I'm not, he's just focused on the task at hand, which is his match. And then you got a pro like a Renee, right? Like, I mean, she like literally will just have got finished with an interview and then immediately jumps in, hey, Meech, we could talk about like some work, business stuff we got going on. And she's right back on in 5, 4, 3, 2, Renee. And she's right back. Like, I mean, it's a sight to behold, let me tell you.
Yeah.
It's great. It's great. And then Saraya is like, it's funny because her and Ruby, like, I feel like they're almost like always in character. like even our conversation sometimes, I'm like, was that work? Did you just work for me? Like, but it's cool though. It's cool though, man. I enjoy it. Yeah, it's fun. It's interesting. I love seeing like even like the guys that I don't represent, you know, like they're always so happy to see me. So it's cool, man. I feel like one of the boys, you know.
Nice.
So obviously we've seen you do a fair amount of charitable endeavours as well, with the likes of Just for Humanity and High Impact Athletes. I just wondered if you could tell us a little bit more about those charities.
Yeah. So I guess I'll start with High Impact Athletes.
Yeah.
My publicist Jordan actually introduced me to Marcus Daniel a few years ago, and as it as it kind of played out, initially that introduction was made because a lot of the charities that are within the portfolio of High Impact Athletes are geared more toward environmentalism and conservation and things of that nature, which is like right up Bryan's alley, right? So I had been doing a bunch of research myself, like getting up to speed on like B corporations and just sustainability initiatives that were happening all over the country and the different brands or whatever the cases that were involved with them. And I, you kind of start to look at yourself like, man, I'm kind of wasteful. And I'm like, I should be doing my part to like contribute to like saving this thing that we all call our world and making sure that it's preserved for the next generation, right? And so, obviously she made the introduction to Marcus, and he told me about the Doing the Most Good portfolio, which like there's a number of different charities that are all underneath that specific portfolio, and I was like, yo, like this will be cool. This is something I want to be a part of. It just so happens that at the time there were only athletes that were a part of this, like whether retired or active or whatever the case is. And I became the first manager / agent to be a part of it. And that was a very unique opportunity for me. I didn't realize how much of a benefit that would be in like leveraging conversations with people. Like, and my hope is that through the work that I'm doing with my talent, I can add even more exposure to high impact athletes, more exposure to the portfolio, and just encourage people to do more of their part to help conserve, preserve our planet or whatnot. And then with Just for Humanity, I think I was at some type of industry mixer, and I met this guy Nitin Patel who basically started telling me about the initiatives he was working on. I think we were there. It was like a rum brand that was looking for investment or whatever the case may be, and somehow we got on to the charity component. And he was telling me about basically what it costs to send a kid to school in India, and it absolutely blew my mind because I don't see the dollar amount as a kid that grew up in America. I never saw the dollar amount that was attached to me going to elementary school, like right in the way that they see it for their children to go to elementary school. And that to me was just like mind blowing. And I knew immediately, being that I was working in the wrestling space, being that wrestling had such a great base in India, that there was going to be a way at some point that I was going to be able to utilize the voice and the influence that I'll have in this wrestling space to impact education for these kids here in India. And slowly but surely, like I'm working on that now. Like I'm a regular donor now, and I'm constantly, I sit on the board. I'm constantly trying to find different initiatives um, to get people to get that awareness, right? Something as simple as 30 cents a day, like makes such an impact over the course of a month, over the course of 6 months, over the course of a year for these kids. Like they actually can go to school, like multiple, they can eat their it's crazy. So yeah, so honored to be a part of that organization as well. Shout out to them. Yeah, Just for Humanity. Good people, man. Good people.
That's awesome.
That is
Absolutely
amazing.
awesome. I'm curious, what kind of what criteria do you kind of look for when you're looking for like a new talent to represent it? Like, how does that process work? Do you try and look for people and get in touch with them? Do they get in touch with you? Is it a mix? And what do you look for in, a good gold kind of member of the talent roster?
Yeah, it honestly, there hasn't been much of me looking for anybody, if I'm
Mm.
being honest with you. A lot of everybody that I work with is word of mouth. Every
Yeah.
single person on the roster right now came by way of someone else on the roster, um, which is unique and it's special, and I don't take it for granted. I think, as we grow and as we scale, one of the important things that I do try to identify is like, do you want it? Like, right? Everyone has a goal, right? But how badly do you want to reach this? Like, what are you willing to do to reach this, and to accomplish this thing? I need that. I need that fire, right?
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm getting ready to give you. And if you're not going to give me that back, this is not going to work. It's going to be two rams of running up against each other, right?
Yeah.
Instead of running at that goal to run through it, right? And so that's that fire, that passion, that just want to, that's one of the first things I look for. And you can smell it. You got it or you don't. Like, right? If you're unsure about yourself, or I don't want to say there's like a lack of confidence per se, but if you're still trying to figure things out, I can always, I think I can help in those situations, right? Because a lot of times it's perspective, right? And it's the way that
Yeah.
you're looking at something that determines how it goes, right? And so if I can change the way you're looking at this, then obviously I can affect, um, or have an effect on, the way this thing goes. So yeah, those are probably like the main things. I've been fortunate to also work with people that already have some cachet in a specific space. So I don't think that, look, while it's everyone's dream, or every most managers' dream to like take someone from complete obscurity to the highest of highest levels, it's just not good business. Like, right? Like
Yeah.
that's such a risk. Like, why would you? Why? Like, now if it happens, if you just absolutely spot a talent, you believe in them, and you think that, and you have the resources to surround them with, to help them reach new heights, then that's a completely different story. I encourage you to go for it, because I know that I would. Like if I had that situation, I would. I'm not seeking that out anymore, though. That's the difference.
Yeah. No,
That's
that makes
fair.
absolute sense. So obviously the world's changing pretty much every day. Using things like examples being like the pandemic a few years back and the challenges we face there. I just wondered if you could sort of ask about really the how talent management has changed and evolved over the years for you. As I say, just using examples of things like moving more into the virtual space with complications like the pandemic.
Yeah. So, I think that I was just having a conversation with my production partner about this a little bit earlier. Shout out to him, man. Tony Hollinsworth, man. Amazing, amazing individual, man. Um, Over is the time that you could just sit back and accept inbound,
Mm.
right? Like you have to like meet these brands, these companies, where they are today. Like if you see a fit for your talent within their ecosystem, like put together a deck and show them why. That may be something that's completely different from what their plans are. Most of their marketing plans are paid for and done by an agency already, but at the probably end of last year, if not the beginning of this year. But if you can put something in front of them that changes the way that they look at themselves, right? But also introduces them to this amazing talent that you represent that is additive to whatever it is that they're trying to convey to their audience or their consumer, like it's a win. And I feel like you have to be able to do that now. If you're just sitting back and just fielding, again, inbound requests, say, hey, can you do this? Hey, can you do that? Like in my eyes, you won't be able to build that brand. You can sustain that living or sustain that, I just say that is a sustainable way to keep the talent paid and able to make enough money to make ends meet, right? But if you're really looking to grow their profile and scale them into maybe different spheres or different aspects of or different industries, I think that it's important to show these brands, right? And in order to do that, I feel like you have to again meet them where they're at. Like to put your person in their face, because sometimes they're just they have their blinders on, they don't see them. There's a brand sitting out there right now that I guarantee you somebody may stumble across this video because of the way you guys are going to hashtag this thing up, because the way I'm going to
of course
and let everybody know, like that's going to say, you know what? I like that kid's fire. Let me just have a conversation with him and see if there's a fit here. And I'll take that every day over just sitting back and waiting for somebody to call me. No, I'm not waiting for you to call me. I'm gonna call you. What's up? Like, let's do this.
I love that.
Definitely.
Love that approach. You kind of touched on it then, so we've got to kind of talk about all the amazing work you've been doing. Obviously, you're an Emmy nominated producer. So what exactly does a producer do, and how proud are you of the amazing work you've been able to work on so far?
Man, let me tell you, this journey as a producer is crazy, because up until about 2017, the most I had ever produced, right, was maybe like a music video, right? I was, like I told you guys, I moved to New York to get into artist management. So that was my thing, the music, right? Shout out to Ethan Lewis, who was the head of Unscripted at the time at Smack. He's now over at Higher Ground, which is Barack Obama's company. He heads production there, right? So my OG, and it's crazy, I call him my OG because he's actually 2 years younger than me, but literally like my OG in this production world. I remember like it was yesterday. When he first got the job, he literally called me into his office. He was like, "Hey," he called me from his office because he was in LA, and said, "Hey, like put together 10 ideas, right, of things that you want to see on TV that you don't think exist." And 2 of those things actually became real productions in real life. Like, right, it's beyond my scope of thinking, right? Because I just never saw myself in that capacity. And he was able to really help just give me like and teach me like some of the technical skills in terms of like formatting a show and how you needed to present those materials to get a network or streamer to purchase the show, right? And then I inherently had the skill set of being with talent on the show and producing in the field, because we had these famous talent that I'm on set with them as they're doing these things already. And I'm the one that's communicating on their behalf to the director, to the show. But at the time, I'm not thinking I'm producing, but that's literally what I was doing. And I just happened to be, I was talent producing. But then you kind of switch those roles to right now you're looking at the overall picture of the show, right? So it was easy to like take the hat off and kind of switch roles in that capacity. Now I kind of just keep one hat on, and that's like the produce. Like I'm just a producer. Like I just like to produce things, man. Like when on my headstone, I hope it says, "Man, Meech was a good person. He made dope shit." Like that's what I want to be known for. Like, would I like a couple extra O's in the bank account? Of course, I want a couple extra O's in the bank account. Who doesn't, right? But at the end of the day, like if I could leave behind something that you know, the next iteration of humans will find, you know, 3,500 years from now, they find a DVD, or they, you know what I mean? They find somebody's old MacBook and they're like, yo, what is this? You know? And it's something that I did. It's BS High. Like that would be a dream, you know? Also, BS High was probably one of the most fascinating productions I've ever been on. The team that I got to work, I found that project in the last week of my time at Smack. Guys, my last day was September 3rd. The game itself happened on August 29th. Literally, Sunday, like literally, like that's how like life has kind of worked out for me. And I think that I've spoken these things to existence. And again, I don't sit around waiting for it. I'm going to get it. If I want it, if I see it, it's mine. I gotta have it. I'm gonna be relentless in that approach. And you know, if you're in front of me or if you're trying to stop me, good luck to you. Because I'm
I love it.
You know? I love it. No, it's some drive, definitely. Well, you know, that being said, you know, what does 2024 look like for yourself and for the GoodGold Agency, and you know, is there any big things you got coming up with talent that you're working with?
I'll be announcing a big signing pretty soon here. We are currently in a fundraising round. So I'm definitely looking to scale, bring on some new members of the team from the professional side, right? And so I think that's probably like the next iteration. Have a few productions that are being pitched. Some being sat on by networks and streamers. So knock, knock. Hey, I'm waiting for an answer. So I'm excited about those things. Yeah, you never know, man. You never know what I might get my hands into. So, you know, if you care to shoot me a follow, I'm on social media at everything at Meech Golden. I'm a follow backer, so don't I'm not one of those guys. So tap in with me. Yeah, I'm just excited, man. I mean, I think that I've kind of caught my groove in this space now. I don't feel like the new guy anymore. It was probably like a naive way to be thinking anyway, but I definitely feel like a seasoned professional at this thing now. You know, I think that there's just a certain way you gotta make your presence known in these rooms, man. Because they're not going to like just let you in. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you gotta kick that door down, right? And then when I sit at the table, I present well for myself, right? Because I'm prepared for this moment. It's something that I work for, and I know that every room I walk in, I know I belong in. You know, so it's gonna be a lot of rooms being walked in this year, man. But yeah, so I'm excited for that.
Yeah, no, damn right,
man. Like honestly, your whole drive, determination, personality is just infectious. We wish you nothing but the best with everything. We're sure you're gonna absolutely kill it. But thank you so much.
Hey, yo, and I want to do this again, man. Like seriously, I really enjoyed talking to you guys, man. Y'all asked some really like thoughtful questions, man. You know, doing some homework on little old me, man. That's super dope. You know, I wanted to share something with you guys, right? I thought about this on and just so the fans know, like they waited for me for extra 15 minutes because I was coming from the gym and I was late. They let me get to the crib and change up. So shout out to those boys, right? But there is a song called "Patiently Waiting" by 50 Cent, and it's on Get Rich or Die Trying album, right? And on Eminem is a feature on there, right? And in his verse, he says, A to the K, and in the way I bring Dre in it with me. And I thought it'd be cool for y'all to use that as like a drop. Like take the
That's
A
awesome.
to the K and just have it like loop. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like you could play like, like the
Oh, we definitely have to steal that.
Yeah, we're gonna steal that.
That would be fire, right? Like
that's
I was
awesome.
I love that as well. Like around the whole patiently waiting side, but worth the wait, Meech. You've been absolutely awesome, and we genuinely appreciate you taking the time. You're a fascinating story, and as you say, a lot of doors are going to be getting walked into, and probably coming off the hinges. We can't wait to see what's coming.
Absolutely. I appreciate y'all boys, man.